Yo, what's up guys? So today I wanted to talk about and showcase off Inferno Tempest. So this card was a really old card that I think a lot of us did actually use back in the day, because I remember seeing some people back when you used to play like online on the DS on some of the Yu-Gi-Oh games, or if you ever played Yu-Gi-Oh on the PSP. I don't know, I built so many decks around this, and I tried to make it viable. And if you went to like the Yu-Gi-Oh Wikia page, you'd be like, yo, Grinder, Golem, and Inferno Tempest, and you'd basically pull off some other OTKs with it. But it actually is not that bad right now in the game. And the reason why I actually decided to make this video is because homie Sparks1357 sent in some plays. And I was thinking, well, like, you can just literally Nibiru them, and the token usually will have absurd amounts of attack, right? Now, you can actually just utilize your opponent's large token and your Nibiru, and if they crash into it, you can actually activate Inferno Tempest. And then from here, most decks, I would say, in 2019 are running like 20 monsters, right? If you think about it, most of their cards in the very beginning are searching out cards that search out, like, add one monster, or like, they'll go through like 3 or 4 cards turn 1, right? And if they have like 20 monsters in their deck, whatever they happen to draw, whatever, we'll say like 17-ish, and then we'll use like the 3-ish, like search 1 dragon or search 1 of this and add it to your hand. A lot of times they're going through so many cards really quickly, and if you activate Inferno Tempest, in combination with Necroface, you actually have a Deckout deck. You have an instant access to Grand Maji Daiza one-shotting. This is what you're going to see over here. So, like I mentioned before, Inferno Tempest is a really cheesy card. I should go over the effect real quick. Anyways, when you take 3,000 more battle damage from one attack, you can activate this card. You remove from play all monsters in each player's deck and graveyard from play. So I was going over the numbers earlier, and like I said, you're on average going to be able to hit like 15-ish cards, and if your opponent activates some searching and they go through some cards, you're looking at maybe like 30-ish cards that are going away with not only Inferno Tempest, but also with Necroface. Necroface is a guaranteed 10. This is kind of, well, it's a little bit RNG because you don't know how many monsters your opponent is playing, but you can actually deck out your opponent quite easy, and you guys can see it's going to proc all the effects of the soul absorptions. And this is more of a win harder card in any Grand Maji variant. I usually try not to run this card, although it does get ridiculous sometimes, and you can see he's at over 90,000 life points, and then he's going to deck his opponent out. Like, that's next level disrespect, and he gets Solemn here, but it doesn't matter because he can't draw any cards. So you can deck out your opponent with that. You also technically will have Grand Maji Daizas that will get well over, like, 10,000 plus attack. You can one-shot your opponent. Plus, if that doesn't go through, you have copies of cards like DD Dynamite, which can actually one-shot your opponent too. So there's a lot of levels of cheese built into this deck, which is why I want to call it like one of the ultimate cheesy decks here. But like, it's pretty consistent to pull off Grand Maji Daiza as is. But again, you add cards like DD Dynamite, or like I said, Inferno Tempest. It can be really good with Nibiru. Now, this one is just going to be more of our standard Grand Maji plays, but it is showcasing off Inferno Tempest and how powerful the card can be very early on in the game. Because again, with Nibiru out in the game, it doesn't really matter that your opponent will have a bunch of monsters. You just give them one giant token with like 10,000 attack. It doesn't matter what your life points are at, unless it's 0 with this deck, because you can at any point summon a monster that has absurd attack and then just make it game. And we're going to go ahead and see Heavy Dust Storm, but he's going to go ahead and activate that Polymerization. He's looking to go ahead and make that Dark Magician Dragon Knight. So he's going to take 3,000 points of damage, and you already see this. He just lost, look at this, he's at 21. He lost half of his deck right now. And now at this point, all of these cards are almost useless. Eternal Soul won't have those targets because Dark Magician is already gone. A lot of decks will run to the situation where it's like you have to control like a face-up Gladiator Beast, or you have to control a face, like a Link monster or something. And like, they just like, literally they lose because of deck out, essentially, because no matter what they draw, they can't even do anything. And then this guy, he's doing him dirty with the Mystic Mind, but obviously Grand Maji Daiza very easy to pull off with 10,000 attack. But Inferno Tempest, again, will make it so there's no fear of maybe any other cards that they can draw into, because, well, there's just literally no more monsters. This one over here, I just wanted to basically talk about one specific card that I thought was interesting, that I'm really curious to why people don't even side deck this card. This is a big burn, especially for players that are running like any Grand Maji Daiza cheesy variant, because there's so many ways to play Grand Maji Daiza. That big burn over here, it's a really interesting card. So it says you can only activate this card when your opponent activates a card that targets a monster in the graveyard. So that could be both. you remove from play all monsters in both players' graveyards. So this could actually have so much utility because the target could essentially be gone when you're activating this, therefore dodging some other mechanics that your opponent might be activating. But then on top of that, if your opponent is really set up in the graveyard, which, you know, this duel you'll see later down the line, Big Burn being utilized here, you're going to be able to just get rid of everything that they have. And then on top of that, again, it's remove from play all monsters in both player graveyards, so that actually helps you as well. So this card is just going to be really, really useful, again, in Grand Majorisa, which is kind of what this whole video is about, but it's also mostly about Inferno Tempest because, again, I never really thought about Nibiru being in the game and then therefore it being really easy to activate. So the Goki player is just playing I want to almost call it a Boral deck because this guy, all he wants to do is spam out those. But look at this. So he just healed 3,500 off of course, Big Burn, and his opponent now has no monsters in the graveyard. He can't use his Phoenix Blade anymore, at least as of right now, because there's just nothing to obviously banish. So he's going to go ahead and give his opponent Lava Golem, and you already know the Lava Golem Inferno Tempest cheese over here. So he's going to go ahead and summon another monster. Now, obviously, if your opponent sees what you're playing, they're probably not going to attack with something 3,000. They're probably going to go ahead and make something else, but you already know. You activate the Inferno Tempest, and again, he loses out on all of his stuff. And at this point, it's not looking too good, especially when Necroface is going to be banishing those additional cards. And at this point, he's at 28,000 life points, so basically, he has to deal with what he's got in his hand with the monsters, because another win condition is you just have too many life points and your opponent doesn't have the amount of monsters that are required. Now, unfortunately for him, his Cyber's Quantum Dragon not going to be doing too much because he summoned the Topologic Dragon. But once again, Soul Absorption is going to be healing up. Then we got Seer's Passbook. The duel actually goes on for an extended amount of time here. But basically, I'll sum up the video. Because he will be taking a large amount of damage, and he's going to go ahead and just get so much extra life points. But Lava Golem does come out eventually, and he just burns to death, with, of course, having only 2.3 left. Such just a few burns, but Necroface still has a large attack, but he's got to deal with this Necroface right now. But now we've essentially resetted the whole duel, but look how much life points he has. He reset the duel, but he's at 38,000 life points. So taking that, you know, maybe 5,000-6,000 damage when you Nibiru your opponent, it's not going to be that big of a deal because, again, you're going to be able to recover from that quite easy. And, you know, you guys already know, like I said, Nibiru is here. I'm going to let the duel go on for a little bit longer, but it does go on for like a really, really, really long time, and I'm going to try to condense the video, even though we got a deck profile to go over, but he's going to go ahead and summon that Blackfire Soldier of Chaos. In fact, Gogi summons so many times per turn. It is insane how many times that deck can just completely go off. And once again, dude, Soul Absorption, and we're at 44,000 life points. But basically, I mean, this deck is going to be super annoying to face off against. Again, Inferno Tempest was the highlight of it, and I just want to talk about Big Burn right here. But like I said, the duel goes down for quite some time, and I'm going to go ahead and just sum it up over here. Love Golem, it was game. But anyways, yo, thanks to my boy Sparks. But if you guys do want the deck profile, I do kind of want to also talk a little bit about this deck over here as far as suggestions go. So you definitely do want to run a large deck, depending on what you want to do as your win condition, because Metal Snake can actually go really fast, but you also want to keep in mind that you do want to be able to survive if you happen to, you know, desires multiple times, because if you're running a 60 card deck, obviously you're going to deck out less, but if you activate all 3 of these, that's 30 cards, right? And so you can maybe accidentally deck yourself out, and you don't want to do that. But it depends on the way you want to play. Again, you don't have to do the deck out, but like I said, Inferno Tempest plus this, that's like, if we look at it like 20 monsters, and if they've searched out, which is like every single duel, everyone always searches out cards. If they're playing like 20 monsters, and let's say that they have a few in their hand, they activate like 3 or 4 cards to search, they have 3 or 4 monsters in hand. We'll say like this maybe manages like 20, anywhere from like 15 to 20 cards, I would say is pretty safe on a monster count, right? So you get 15 to 20 cards off this. You get an additional guaranteed 10 off this, and their draw is 5. And if they're searching, they're special summoning and adding cards, you're going to deck them out quite consistently. So you have Deckout, you have OTK potential, obviously, with this. It's just really cool to see Inferno Tempest. Because, again, as a kid, this was one of my favorites. But anyways, onwards with the deck profile. So he actually had a few different builds, but I really think that Nibiru is like the go-to. I would max out on Nibiru. When you're off Sphere mode, obviously you need to deal with problematic cards, and then maybe follow up with like a evenly match. I always love that. You sphere mode them, and then you basically leave them with just sphere mode if they happen to spam the board, and then you hit them up with this. Then we have 2 level golems. We got the Dog Red, and then we got 2 copies of Metal Snake, 2 copies of the Raiden, 2 copies of Necrophage, 3 Grand Maju, 1 Cyber Sign for your targets. This is what he decided to run, although I think you can definitely throw in some Nightmare, like, you know, Phoenix, Cerberus. Those would be excellent cards, because sometimes those do come up. And then we have Eater of Millions. We got Allure, Regeki, 3 copies of Desires, Dark Hole, Upstart, Gold Sark, 3 copies of Infernal Tempest, 2 copies of Inquisitiveness, and then we got Soul Absorption, D-Fissure, 3 copies of Spell Mining Cave, Storming, and then we got the Waking the Dragon, Struggling Battle, 2 copies of the Heavy Death Storm, Bottomless, Breakthrough, and Big Burn, which is a card I really liked, and then Macrocosmos. As far as the extra deck, it's really not something you're going to be needing. There was a build that he was playing the Extravagance in here, but Extravagance doesn't let you go through other draw power cards if you didn't want to play like Allure. If you want to max on Allure, then obviously don't play it, but you can still kind of mix it in with Desires. But like as far as suggestions for the deck, I was actually working on a Grand Maju build. I actually really liked playing 3 copies of Lure, 3 Metal Snake, and just making it like a turbo Grand Maju. Especially when in the TCG right now we have 3 copies of Dark Hole. If you run 3 copies of Dark Hole, I've already talked about it. With the 3 Super Poly, 3 Dark Hole, you got the Regeki, and then 3 Nibiru. Like, this thing is just setting up for OTKs all day, and especially since yeah, you can just hopefully just literally get rid of the token via like whatever card effect. And obviously you need your super poly targets, but that would make this deck, well, it technically wouldn't be a deck out deck, and you could still utilize Inferno Tempest because this can just win games on its own. Again, remember, we're talking about your opponent's special summons all, like they use every single card in their hand, which is not very uncommon, and then you just hit them up with Nibiru. They usually will quit at that point, but then you hit them up with that Inferno Tempest. It's just extra dangerous cheese, and I love it, man. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed the deck profile, as well as the gameplay showcasing off this deck out variant cheese. I like it, man. But anyways, if you guys want to see more of this and you're new to the channel here, hit the subscribe button, turn on that bell, and you'll definitely see more. And if you guys want to send in any other crazy replays like the Inferno Tempest deck out in 2019, I actually just think this card is really good with DevPRO again in 2019. And also, I'm thinking about this card. Like, it definitely has more utility, and I think more people might be interested in side decking this card. But anyways, yeah, feel free to send me more replays if you guys would like to. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a good one. I'm signing out. Peace.